Hello there, and welcome back to Gooner U, where there are no degrees because the learning never stops. I'm Dove, a TA here at Gooner U, and my friend Keith is our stalwart distinguished professor of Arsenal and football studies. Enter our classroom as we discuss the week's news involving Arsenal, Premier League, Champions League, international football, and sometimes MLS because we're Americans. This week, Arsenal, who, by the way, are the reigning Premier League champions, played our opening two matches against Manchester City for the Community Shield and the recently promoted Coventry City to kick off this season's Premier League campaign. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Dove. Hello, everyone. I'm running a bit on empty now. Thank goodness the new season's here. But
hopefully there's plenty more to celebrate in store.
Yeah, it's time. It's time for more. That's all I'm going to say. Well, actually, no, we have a lot more to say. But welcome back. How was your summer vacation?
Yeah, it's good. We got to see each other, take in 1.5 World Cup matches together. It was fun. On TV, we got. It was that quarterfinal. Argentina, Switzerland, and was it the back half of England and Norway? Was that the other one? Yeah, England and Norway. Yeah,
it was good. It was
good.
Speaking of which, there was a World Cup this summer.
I know.
How awesome was that, right?
Yeah, I mean, what a contrast for me specifically, as well as I think a lot of other people too, with the last World Cup. I mean, it was in the summer. That's what you expect, right?
When it's what's supposed to be.
Right. It was in the summer. It was in our home country, by and large, isolated matches here and there in Mexico and Canada, but pretty much mostly in the U.S. and always at least adjacent to our own time zones that we live in.
Yeah.
And I actually shared the time zone with you for basically the whole tournament, so that worked out funny. But that combined with also 4 years ago, I had just started watching soccer with Arsenal's season in August, and then the World Cup was a winter one in like November, December or something, right? And yeah, I watched a few matches here and there when I could catch them, but it wasn't really a big deal to me. This time around, it just everything all went together, right? Where it was in our own time zone, roughly. Matches were happening all day, every day because of the expanded format of this World Cup tournament, where basically I could have soccer on like all waking hours for the most part, during the day. And I hadn't planned to do that, but it ended up working out that way. For one thing, visiting with family, I spent a long time staying with family, with my parents and my sister and her husband. And whenever we were going over there, my brother-in-law would have the games on. And I hadn't been planning to watch as much of it as I did, especially in the group stage, but they always just had a game on. It was something good to have on while we were playing with my little baby nephew and stuff like that. And I ended up seeing a ton of matches that way that I would have otherwise missed. And then I was just kind of into it, just like having a vantage point of there was a match that I had tickets to. I knew I was watching second place from Group D and from Group E. Wondering who in those groups would end up winning and placing second so I could get to see them. That was one way into the knockout rounds, having Team USA actually playing well in the group stage. Like, holy crap, what a group stage Team USA had. Cheering for them to go not as deep as we'd hoped in the knockout rounds, but that was great. There was definitely some strong hope there, and just being more familiar with the game, like being someone who could watch and really not be asking all the questions that everybody else I talked to about the tournament were asking, and not complaining about the things that they're complaining about because they're seeing them for the first time and I'm used to it. So.
Yeah, obviously the World Cup being in the U.S., I think, plays a big role for us and sort of the experience, right? You're immersed in it in a way that and because I can remember 1994 and what a big deal that was, but I've watched a number of World Cups since then. There is something different about the World Cup, and maybe it's just because it's in the summer and there's just more sunshine. Especially because most of the year we're watching England from between September to March when it's kind of just not sunshiny.
When you say hydration break and they're like, what?
Yeah, you mean, well, why break? It's raining. I don't don't know. To me, the World Cup, like something about the national team colors and their kits just seem just a little. They just pop just a little more. They're a little brighter. Arsenal runs around in red and white, but for some reason, like Spain in red, even though if it's actually a deeper red, actually just seems a little brighter. Like Argentina's sky blue compared to City's, like it just feels a little more. It just has a little more verve to it.
I wonder if some of that is HDR imaging on 4K TVs these days.
We're watching this World Cup just coming out of the English season where they're at, so we're watching on the same kind of things. That's just kind of an always experience, right? There's something about the summer and the off season, and to me, I think the fact that there's a lot of sunshine, right? That some of these games are, played in the local daytime in the summer, really kind of helps with that. In terms of the experience, I know we both attended games. You attended a knockout stage game, which is pretty wild. I attended Sweden versus the Netherlands. I picked this bad boy. This was really neat. I thought this was kind of cool. They had for like league games, these things are kind of dopey, but like I have to say my brother and I went to the game. My girlfriend was there too, but like my brother is involved in event management, especially on sporting stuff. And so to kind of get his perspective on all that, it was really impressive. Like the number of like specially branded for that game things like that. They had like the aluminum cup so you get your drink in. And of course it was, too expensive, but like they basically printed on there Sweden versus the Netherlands game, whatever of 104. So there was like it was kind of dopey when he said it. And I kind of got what he was going for, but it was still kind of silly when Infantino talked about every World Cup game being a Super Bowl. Okay, no, but the idea that they could make an event out of the particular game, was a lot of it was a really great experience going to the game. I also attended the Fan Fest in Dallas. Actually, I think I did that during the game you were attending in Dallas. Yes. Really just a great time all around. Obviously, the U.S. performance, if we were to do, U.S. national team I have much more to say about all the things that went on with that. But overall, a fun tournament, a deserved winner in Spain. I think there was no question the Spanish were the best team in the tournament. It was actually funny though when you talk about there being no question. One thing that I was laughing about a little bit is I started listening this summer to the United Goalkeepers Alliance podcast. They do that maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. And they had on, I'm struggling to remember her name at the moment, but she was U.S. women's national team. She was one of the 99ers. Their goalkeeper. Was that Brianna Scurry? Was that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So they had her on.
That out.
Yeah, good job.
Wow.
So yeah, they had her on, and she was talking about how she felt like Emi Martinez deserved the Golden Glove more than Unai Simon. And it's like, I don't disagree. That's what I've been saying for years is like the number of clean sheets is not really a metric of who's the better keeper, but it's like that's the metric that they use. So,
I do think a lot of that dates from like when they probably started doing some of these awards. You can go back into like the mid 20th century or probably a little more recent. I mean, even if it's like the 70s or 80s, like defenses are so much more sophisticated nowadays, and the structure that teams play with that, talks about limiting shots and even the nature of the goalkeeper's role has changed. I'll say this. Yeah. I think with Simon, I think you treat him in some ways. I understand the argument because I think Emi Martinez had a much better game than Simon did in a sense, but he was also much busier. I think if you're Simon, one, your role is very different because, of course, you're not trying to stop all the same number of shots, but also and we've talked about this with Raya a bunch, right? That's David Raya, backup World Cup champion. Right. but I think what part of what's happening there is that you don't have many opportunities where you're called into action, and so mentally, in some ways, it's its own kind of challenge. Now, again, I'm not going to tell Brianna Scurry how to be a good goalkeeper. But I do think I totally understand that point, and on some level, obviously they were better performing, but. I don't know that I don't want to just simply throw that as Simon was exactly what he needed to be. And there's a value in that as well. Yeah,
definitely. It was an interesting point of view. So, but yeah, no, good tournament. I'm really glad that I was there for it and able to appreciate what was going on. And being in the host country, and it was really something.
I love the World Cup. There's so much. We talked about this going into it. There's a lot of noise that follows what happens and a lot of off the field stuff. But at the end of the day, the World Cup is just such an incredible thing. But the games in the end are really end up being quite spectacular. And
real-time follow-up. So you were correct. Brianna Scurry was the number one for that team. I was just looking through the roster, and it was actually Saskia Weber who was on that episode that I listened to. So not starting goalkeeper.
So that was a name I was never going to pull out. Just it's so again, though, someone obviously a much better goalkeeper than I could be. So. Well,
as we are wont to do in our first episode of the regular season, we have a lot of transfers to discuss. Arsenal was busy as ever. Take us through who came, who went, what some of the trends are, what happened there.
Yeah, the ins and outs. Actually, World Cups always do something weird to the transfer window because, of course, a lot of the players people are interested in are busy, and so you're not necessarily going to see them move. Actually, it's changed a lot. The real thing used to always be there'd be players who had really good, really impressive tournaments like out of nowhere that nobody really saw coming, and then all of a sudden they're moving for big money after the World Cup because everybody knows them, everybody wants a piece of them. Nowadays, there's so much more video, there's so much more analysis, there's data, there are fewer surprises, and so a lot of times you saw a few deals were actually done before the World Cup for some big players. Anthony Gordon going to Barcelona was one of those. Right. So some of those big deals had already happened, and then there's kind of a lull throughout, and then afterwards you start to see things picking up with the transfer window closing on September 1st. So I'm just looking over at my calendar. So a little more than a week from now. As we record this on a Saturday evening.
Right. Outside of our normal schedule, yes.
As far as the Arsenal ins and outs, let's start with the outs. This was announced actually like right after the season ended. Karl Hayne officially going to Werder Bremen. Good luck to him there.
So that was our third position keeper.
The third keeper, yes. Jakub Kivior has been on loan at Porto. That has apparently been made permanent. That has been sold there. So congrats to him. Hope things go well in Portugal. Maybe we'll see him in the Champions. I don't know. Did Porto qualify for the Champions League? I don't remember. Bigger loss, not a surprise, but certainly something you're going to feel on the roster based on how the season ended. Leandro Trossard is headed to Beşiktaş in Turkey, one of the big Turkish clubs. Certainly, he still has good football left in him, but he walks away a champion. Walks away arguably having scored. I guess Kai Havertz scored the winning goal, but his goal against West Ham. The game that was ultimately decided with the by VAR afterwards, but his goal I think helped with created a critical victory at a critical moment, and again a player we never expected to be for Arsenal. Remember that was the Mykhailo Mudryk January, and when that fell through, we pivoted at the last minute to Trossard, and just an absolute steal of a signing. So congrats to him. Condolences to one of his biggest fans, our friend Anne Hathaway, who was a big fan of his.
I didn't know that she was a fan of his in particular. Okay.
There have been comments to that effect. And then so farewell Trossard. Hope that winner's medal feels good around your neck. And speaking of which, other people could say Christian Norgard, who again good soldier for the club. Is headed to Everton. So good luck to him. Hope that goes well for him as well. He walks away winner.
Yeah, of those, I'll miss Trossard. I think the rest were already invisible or gone. But yeah, Trossard that stinks. I'm sad to see him go.
Yeah. But as we say, that's sort of the way of these things. So that's the outgoings. Yeah. Incomings. The first one was not really a surprise, or actually, it was more of a surprise if you had forgot what had happened. Piero Hincapié officially joins Arsenal from Bayer Leverkusen. It had actually been a loan. Now, as I understand, it was a loan with an obligation or a guarantee to buy. So this was essentially decided a year ago, but for financial reasons for both Arsenal and Leverkusen, it was pushed off until this summer. So he is now officially a full-out Arsenal player. Yeah. Shortly early on in the window, the Karl Hayne replacement came in the form of Ilan Meslier, or Meslier, I believe. He's a French goalkeeper. Most recently at Leeds, was actually a pretty big signing for them. Considered an up and coming keeper. Things did not go well at Leeds, and he was actually technically what in American sports we would call a free agent. He did not have a club. He had been let go by Leeds at the end of his contract. Now, again, he was the free agent for about 10 days. This was, his deal has expired, and he was picked up by Arsenal. He'll be the third keeper. Kepa remains the number two. There was some talk about perhaps selling Kepa, but that didn't really seem to get anywhere. So looks like it'll be Raya 1, Kepa 2, and Meslier 3.
Let me just ask you, since we have talked about both outgoing and incoming third keepers, how often have you seen Arsenal's or other teams' third keepers actually play? Like, I think we saw Karl Hayne maybe one time for like an early round League Cup match or something once, but that's got to be a rough gig.
Oh, yeah. I mean, usually the other one, it could be who I think is, I don't know if he actually went out on loan or is expected to go on a loan, Tommy Setford, who's actually more of an academy player. So your third keeper, I mean, even Karl Hayne is a young guy, relatively young guy. So, yeah, it's your third keeper is generally almost going to be a kid, someone who's really the important thing is he gets to practice with the first team and train with the first team, and then in some of the larger competitions with competitions with the larger benches, he gets to sit and watch. But no, the expectation he plays more than one game in a season would be a massive upset. So, but we'll see with Meslier. My impression is that the coaching staff is a much bigger fan of Kepa than like the fan base, and their opinions being the one. The coach's opinion, of course, is the one that matters. But I don't know. Melié's got Premier League experience. He's actually an experienced keeper. This might be a thing to help rebuild his confidence before he heads off somewhere else again. Or I don't know. Maybe they were expecting to sell Kepa and have him as a backup. I'm not really sure, but I don't expect to see a lot of him. But who knows?
Yeah.
There's a lot of games in the early rounds of those cups.
Right.
Third transfer, we talked about Trossard being the one to go out. His replacement was brought in, a Greek winger, Christos Tzolis, coming in from Club Bruges. We were talking in our pregame preparation. You didn't really know anything about him because you had never seen him play before. But as a matter of fact, we had. Because he played for Club Bruges when we faced off with them in the Champions League last season.
Right.
He has definitely been a spark plug. A lot of good numbers. Scored a ton of goals, or involved a lot of goals and assists for Bruges last year. I mean, in some ways, I know we're talking about him as a Trossard replacement. I think in terms of the statistical output, there's a comparison to be made with Victor Gyökeres. And as we said, we didn't need that. We didn't need the 50 goals he had for Sporting. We just needed. Well, it turns out we needed 21 of them because that's what got us where we wanted to be. I have to say, Tzolis has been probably the best player in preseason to the extent you pay attention to those kinds of things. He has certainly been an excellent addition to Arsenal for the two matches we've seen to this point. And I guess I'd say long may it continue.
Yeah, he's been good. I mean, 2 matches under our belt so far, and I've liked what I've seen. I didn't catch really any of the preseason stuff. I don't really pay too much attention to it, and it's not easy to watch and not worth it. But yeah, I mean, these last couple games, I mean, he had, I don't even know. He had a majority of the goal contributions. I think it was really something to see. So yeah, it's exciting.
Speaking of exciting, probably the big transfer of the window is the arrival of one Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle. That's right. We got their captain. Newcastle's just completely dismantled themselves, and Eddie Howe also left. They're they're in a bit of a rebuilding
Anthony Gordon,
phase
you talked about earlier, yeah.
Gordon, Sandro Tonali was also sold to Tottenham. So Newcastle's going to evolve for a little bit, I think, is the next stage of their development. But I mean, Bruno's an interesting one. Arsenal fans have had a lot of things to say about him. Most of them aren't very nice. Other Arsenal players have, although he's told the story and it's floated around social media that after the signing was official, Declan Rice sent a picture of the two of them basically fighting, and with the message, "We don't have to, please, we don't have to fight anymore." We have had a number of run-ins with Bruno, but he's definitely the kind of player where you absolutely hate him when you have to play against him, but there's a lot to like about him. Brazilian midfielder. Obviously, we know about his physical abilities, but also, I mean, an excellent progressive passer. I mean, he's, especially as we sort of think about Declan Rice coming back from the World Cup and how much time he really ought to be having off. I mean, obviously Bruno was in the World Cup, but Brazil didn't go as far as England did. So, yeah, I think Bruno is going to be a really good addition. Gives us continued depth in the midfield. He's 28, so he's not young. He is a player in the thick of his prime, and I think he's a really important figure. Certainly in Newcastle's clubhouse, he's definitely a good presence there. He was their captain, and I think he'll be. He's probably going to end up being the most important addition that Arsenal has, just in terms of his overall quality, with, understanding there's still about a week to go in the window.
Sure.
One last one to talk about, definite incoming. This one happened just a couple days ago as we record on Saturday. Ezri Konsa brought in from Aston Villa, a right-sided defender. The big news, one of the big pieces of news coming out of the World Cup was William Saliba's back injury. The timeline on that, they're talking about like 5 months. I would be shocked to see. I would not be surprised if we don't see him until after the new year.
No.
And you look at the right side of our defense, Jurrien Timber basically tried to will himself back into the roster for the Champions League final, got hurt and had to be out the World Cup. He's still not back yet. So right now our right-sided defenders outside of Konsa are, a 22-year-old Christian Mosquera, who is really good, but it's a lot to ask of him, especially when the other right-sided defender is Ben White. Now, again, we love Ben White, but he's also coming off an injury, and we've seen the last couple of years, right? We never seem to get him and Timber healthy at the same time, and so we basically run one of them into the ground, and right when the other one comes back, the first one gets hurt. So, a right-sided defender really becomes a necessity with Saliba being out as long as he is, and with White and Timber still. Again, they know better than we do, but Timber is still hurt. Can you run White that much? I don't think so, and so I think that's a really important necessary thing to do. So those are the official incomings. Again, still about 10 days. To September 1st. So. Yeah. There still are some moving pieces on this, but I think at most you probably see one more move for Arsenal, at least in terms of an incoming player. My guess would be a left-sided attacker. And we can talk a little bit about why that is. Do we want to move into the potential outgoings?
Yeah, sure. So you're saying a potential left-sided attacker? That's kind of where Tzolis is, right?
Tzolis, yes, but the other name we should mention on the left side of the field is your friend and mine, Gabriel Martinelli.
Yes.
It definitely seems like Arsenal's trying to move on from him. We know there was an a bid put in by Galatasaray, and Martinelli basically said, "I don't want to go to Turkey," which fair. Okay. As a player, he has some input in this as well. But it does seem to be a sense that he's being shopped around. He hasn't been even made the bench in the Community Shield or the league opener. Some of that I think is for his health, but obviously it's an awkward situation for him and everyone. There are some rumors going around about him and some other places and a few other other possibilities. But it doesn't. At this point, I guess I would be surprised if he wasn't sold by the first, but who knows? We've seen these kind of instances where it looks like a player's about to be sold, and then he isn't, and then everything comes back and it's fine. We'll see, but it certainly the sense seems to be that they are looking to offload him, perhaps just for the financial benefit of selling him, but also perhaps is there a sense? Kind of a question: is there a sense within the club that maybe his development is stagnated and he might benefit from being somewhere else, or perhaps it just this is the best he's going to be, and better to sell when we sell before that becomes a negative thing to say about him. Interesting to see. It does also color, I should say, the big story. We didn't talk about this. The big transfer story of the offseason involving Arsenal was the failed pursuit of Vinicius Junior, Brazilian winger at Real Madrid. So here's the short version of the story. Vinny's contract was set to expire at the end of next season, right? At the end of this coming season. So with a year left on the deal, that's when you either extend the contract or you sell the player.
Right.
He was asking for a particular salary from Real Madrid. Real Madrid was preparing to offer him a different salary level. And it is in this gap, there was a sense that he might go somewhere. Now, there aren't a lot of clubs who can afford a player of his wages and certainly his caliber. But from everything we've seen, Arsenal was in the conversation and he was listening to what Arsenal had to say. Remember, when transfers, you negotiate not just with the club, but also with the player themselves. Right? So they have to want to make the move as well. Again, was this Vinny really thinking to himself, I really might leave Real Madrid, and looking at what Arsenal had on the table and saying, I could really go for that? Or was this a case of using us as a negotiating ploy to go back to Madrid and say, look, if you don't want to pay me what I think I'm worth, Arsenal is going to. What are we going to do here? This story ends when Real Madrid increases their offer. Not exactly what Vinny was looking for, but that's never how that works. They increase their offer. He signs the extension.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes. It would have been awesome. He's a great player. It would have been incredible. It says a lot about where we are in the larger ecosystem of football, that a player of his caliber, a player at Real Madrid, was talking about leaving and coming to Arsenal. Again, how serious was it? Hard to really say. Yeah. But it's kind of a fun thing to be a part of a story like that.
Oh yeah, well, and he would have been in good Brazilian company.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of Brazilians here. And then one last thing we haven't mentioned about a potential outgoing. There's a lot of chatter about Ethan Nwaneri. Obviously, with the signing of Bruno and the return to health of Ødegaard and Mikel Merino and Declan Rice, the central midfield, his area. I mean, we still also have Saka and Noni Madueke on the right, where he can also play. It doesn't really seem like it's a clear route to playing time for him. And financially speaking, to sell a young player like an academy player like Nwaneri, he didn't cost you anything in financial terms, at least in terms of how it's calculated by UEFA and by the FA. And so, yeah, it does seem Martinelli and Nwaneri are two players that it feels like their time at Arsenal may be coming to an end. Nwaneri's case, it might end up being a loan where he comes back, goes, gets playing time, comes back, ascends into a position. But I don't know that it's hard to say where that's going. But I would not be surprised if both of them are somewhere else by the time September begins.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully it works out for him. I like watching him play, and I haven't gotten to for a while, between him just not really playing when he is here and then being on loan. So yeah. Well, meanwhile, as we get ready, and the season's already underway for us now, but kind of easing back into Premier League after a summer of World Cup and all of the World Cup rule changes that happened, we've had some rule changes also for the Premier League. Some of them were World Cup rule changes, and some World Cup rule changes are not coming to the Premier League. But just kind of going through these quickly, there's a good overview at The Athletic. We'll have a link to that in the description or show notes. But The first category that they were talking about is refereeing transparency. So some of the examples of things that they're going to be doing there would be allowing direct quotations from the officials, giving some explanations and other things pertaining to certain key decisions, just to kind of help fans feel better about what was decided and why. And I guess broader use of ref cam, they're saying 1 to 2 matches a week will have the ref cam. As far as transparency, maybe, I don't know. Do you feel that makes it more transparent, seeing the ref cam on the broadcast?
I don't know that that's where I'd go. I mean, I think they needed, like we saw a lot of the ref cam in the World Cup. I think they got better. I think they got better about using it as the tournament went along, but especially early on was a little nausea-inducing. Watching the game with someone else's GoPro. I don't know. I don't know that it helps in the term of transparency. Like, oh, what do the referees see? I mean, I don't know. I feel like that kind of opens you up to other kinds of criticisms about, oh my God, you were looking right at it. How did you not make that right? The kind of thing you said elsewhere. Well, so I don't know that helps.
They do get to pick which clips they show. So presumably they won't show things that portray him in a negative light, probably.
The fact that you had to append the probably there says a lot. I'm just going to say.
All right, well, now let's waste a bunch of time talking about all the rules that they're putting in place to circumvent time-wasting attempts. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, and this is one that we did see during the World Cup, and apparently, from what I understand, the Premier League was actually ahead of the game as far as requiring players to stand off the field of play after receiving medical treatment. I guess not all leagues have required that. The Premier League was like an early test league for that, but they were requiring 30 seconds is what we've had the last few seasons. So now that's going to go up to a full minute, which is, I believe that is what we saw during the World Cup, where if you actually call out the medical team, you need to come off the pitch for a minute. So you better actually need medical attention because you're down a man for a minute. The really interesting thing, and I don't think this was in effect for the World Cup, is that there's been criticism of goalkeepers for basically just causing a timeout when they feel like sitting down and getting medical attention, and they hadn't been pulled off because obviously you're not going to pull your keeper for a minute. That's a pretty harsh penalty for alleged time wasting. So the solution that they've settled on is that the captain needs to pick another outfield player to go off instead of the keeper going off for that full minute. On top of it, this is the first 10-second timer that we're going to talk about. There's some 10-second timers and some 5-second timers. They have 10 seconds to decide who that other player is, or else the captain will go off by default. So you better pick quickly. But they have the whole time that he's getting treated to talk about who's going to go off, I suppose. So hopefully that's not a problem.
I suspect it, in those instances, by the way, I should say, I suspect there's already a plan in place. And in fact, it's probably the manager just shouting onto the field the captain's job is just to declare who it is. But the manager's probably like, hey, take out number 7.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they've already worked it out in advance what might happen in a situation like that. Yeah,
I imagine it's not dissimilar to like the line of succession for when the captain goes off, who gets the armband. Like they're not figuring that out in the moment. Yeah,
exactly. They know. Yep.
So the next timer, they have 10 seconds to leave the pitch when getting subbed off. We know that we've seen in prior seasons that a yellow card would be given if they didn't take the short way off the pitch. It sounds like that is being formalized now with an actual 10-second countdown. If you're not off the pitch, then I don't actually remember what the penalty is, but maybe a yellow card. I don't remember seeing what it is.
I thought it was a yellow card.
Yeah, it could be. I didn't see that in the article. I didn't remember. The next timer is 5 seconds for a throw-in to be taken from the time that it's awarded. Or is it when it's awarded, or I guess when they pick up the ball? I'm not sure.
It's when they pick up the ball. You saw it a little bit in the World Cup. You'd see the referee kind of giving the count.
Yeah, I guess the signal is supposed to be when, like, for 5 seconds, like the official on the sidelines will the linesman will raise his hand, I guess, is what they're supposed to do for something like that.
Right. Yeah. There is a point where it is kind of interesting the level of discretion they have in when they start that timer. But it isn't just like when the ball goes out, you got to sprint and pick one up. But if you see the thing, the guys like picking up and tossing it to their teammates, or they do the thing where they wipe it off in their You're going to see a lot less of that, hopefully.
Which, now that you bring up the wiping off of the ball, that was another thing, is I guess towels are banned across the Premier League. I don't know if that was covered in this Athletic article, but yeah, no towels. So we definitely saw that with yesterday's Premier League match against Coventry. They wanted to do a long throw at one point. They showed him wiping it off with his jersey, but I guess even the home team has to use their jersey to wipe it off now. Can't use a towel. But yeah, so 5 seconds for throw-ins, also 5 seconds for goal kicks. The really interesting thing here is the penalty for it, which is if you don't take a goal kick within 5 seconds, so this is another one aimed at the goalkeeper primarily, then that goal kick becomes a corner kick. That's really interesting as far as a punishment for it. I can see why they would do that. That's a pretty big incentive, and it's I think more fair than, obviously you wouldn't do a penalty and a free kick where they take it from. A yellow card seems like it'd be pretty harsh. So
I believe they had that during the World Cup. It's just it like keeper. I feel like they did actually. That's not a new rule. Like I feel like I've seen that in play. I want to say it was the World Cup, but. Yeah, it's going to catch someone at a terrible moment, and and you just hope it isn't your team, and then we can just laugh about it. But
yeah, exactly. So the next category are some VAR changes. Two big ones here. So VAR is now going to be allowed to review second yellows. This is something that we really could have used a couple seasons ago, but. Hopefully it doesn't matter, but it's good to know that you have that little bit of backstop there in case there's an inconvenient yellow at a really key moment that maybe shouldn't have been given.
Yeah.
So, and then we're also going to have VAR is going to be able to review corner kicks. So this is something we definitely saw in World Cup this year, where if a corner kick is given to a team incorrectly, it can be taken away. This is how it was applied in the World Cup. I haven't seen if the Premier League is doing it the exact same way, but in the World Cup, a corner kick could only ever be taken away. They won't give it. If it was given incorrectly as a goal kick, oh well. But if a corner kick is given incorrectly, that's basically a goal scoring opportunity that they shouldn't give if it wasn't actually off of the other team. So that's those are VAR changes. One other thing that I'm happy to see go into effect, although I think you were saying it was agreed upon a couple seasons ago, gambling companies are now going to be banned as shirt front sponsors. So, now we're just banks and airlines primarily. It
was a few years ago they officially passed that, but obviously because of the length and the money involved in some of these sponsorship deals, there was kind of a phase out period for them. But as of this season, shirt sponsors cannot be gambling companies.
Specifically shirt front sponsors, because apparently some of the clubs, which they mentioned the number in the article, it was something like 8 or more clubs that had gambling shirt front sponsors. It was a lot. A bunch of those are moving it to the shirt sleeve sponsor instead. Mm-hmm. That's still allowed. It just can't be the biggest thing on your jersey.
Right.
So, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if it escalates from there. Like, okay, now no shirt sleeve. Okay, now no pitch side advertising. Like, who knows if they'll branch out from there? But yeah,
I wouldn't anticipate that. I think there is something different about the front of the shirt, and European stadiums. I say this, from an American perspective. The European stadiums have always been a little bit more comfortable with sports betting than American ones. Now, obviously a lot has changed in the last 5 years, but if you go back, I mean, again, my frame of reference here is 20 years ago. You just you were not supposed to talk about gambling at an American sporting event, whereas in Europe they had betting kiosks in the stadium. So it's always been a little different in that respect.
At the beginning of the season, it's fun to take a stab at what we think is going to happen and then laugh hilariously at how wrong we were in 38 matches when the season's over, and we get to see how wrong we were. But let's start off with leading scorer. Who do you think is going to be Arsenal's leading scorer at the end of the 26-27 season?
Most goals this season, I'm going to go with Kai Havertz. I think he's Arteta's preferred top striker, preferred guy at the top of the lineup. I think if he's healthy, he certainly looks healthy. He looks confident. I think he bangs in the goals. Obviously he'll get a lot of rotation with Gyökeres. Hopefully Gyökeres is a little more settled into the level we're hoping for. But I'm going to take Havertz to lead the line this year.
Yeah, good pick. That was my first thought, but I don't know if it's because I'm coming off of World Cup or what it is, and maybe it's a little bit cheeky, but I'm feeling Mikel Merino.
I mean, he pretty much. I mean, you know, he scored 2 goals to help Spain win the World Cup.
Yeah. You know, Spain won. He scored a bunch of their goals, at least a few. Came in clutch moments to do it. Yeah. So, who do you think will be your overall player of the year for Arsenal?
Oh man, yeah, kind of the guy I'm expecting a big season from. I honestly, and now granted, this is the weird thing about doing all the preseason predictions with 2 actual competitive games under their belts, the Community Shield and the league opener. But I have been, and I continue to be excited about the season we could be getting from Martin Ødegaard. I think he dealt a lot with injuries the last few years. I think he's gotten a chance to heal. I think he also is going to have some confidence from a really good World Cup he had with Norway.
Oh, yeah.
And I say really good, not just in the sense that Norway went to the quarterfinals, but that he played very well. Haaland gets all the headlines and was very good in the tournament. But I thought Ødegaard was very good when I saw him as well. I'm expecting big things from him. I think he's going to be a serious candidate for the league player of the year honors.
Yeah, definitely. Good shout. For me, I don't know. I'm feeling the long shots today. And like you said, we do have a couple matches under our belt, and that has inspired me to predict Christos Tzolis as our player of the year. I think he's going to make a big splash, and we're going to be wondering how we ever got by without him. So
I mean, I can certainly see him being a valuable piece. And boy, he is an active player. We'll talk a little bit about the games in just a moment. But boy, he is all over the place. So is a lot of the guys. Honestly, they're showing motion really well around the field. I mean, obviously, that's a pick that's going to look a lot sillier when we swoop in and actually sign Vinny in the next 6 hours.
Yeah. So next category, and maybe we'll go back and forth a little bit with this one, but we're going to pick who is getting relegated this season. Which of the Premier League clubs will not be around for the 27-28 season? So who do you think is going to finish in 18th? So, you know, just over the line into relegation.
Oh, we're actually doing it. I don't know that I could do by point. So I'll say this. Last year, we talked about it last year, right? Coming in, the big story was how were the promoted teams going to survive, because the last year, all 3 of them had gone down.
Right.
Now, you and I were both feeling pretty good that at least 1 or 2 of them would stay up. 2 of them did, as it turns out. I don't think all 3 of them are going down, but I do feel like all 3 of them are rather disadvantaged coming in. And the hardest part isn't so much picking which of the 3 is going to stay, so much as who's the current Premier League team that's going to take that place.
Right.
So I'll start by answering that. I am not feeling very good about Fulham coming into this season. I think they feel like they've stagnated a bit. I know they have a new manager who their fans aren't particularly fond of. I don't feel very good about the direction they're going. And when you're a club like Fulham, you know, a lot of those clubs that are kind of outside the big ones, and even a club like an Everton or a Villa or a Spurs, like, has some buffer if things don't go well. If things don't go well at a club like Fulham, they can spiral really quickly, and you find yourself sitting in 19th on Christmas, and it's just a deep hole to dig out of. So if the bottom's going to fall out on somebody this year, I hate doing it because I've always had a soft spot for Fulham, but I think it's them. If someone's going to go down, I think that'll be them.
So I'll slot them in your number 18 spot. I think, that makes sense. So I was thinking the same thing as, like, you know, okay, so which Premier League club that's been around for before this season is going to go down? And you have a much deeper well of experience in the Premier League to draw from here. I don't have that. So what I can draw on is how incredibly exciting it was for a long stretch of last season to fantasize that perhaps Spurs was in fact going down. And that's what I'm predicting, is that they are the club that was not promoted this season that is going to be the one that goes down.
I have so many things to say, but we'll save some of them. We'll save for later. But that's.
So that's the one that I picked that will go down that didn't come up. Which do you think? So were we both on the same page that 2 of the promoted clubs are going back down?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Hull and Ipswich. I don't have a lot to base this on. And even Coventry, I'm not thoroughly in love with. But Coventry racked up 100 points. They had a really good season last year. They scored a lot off set pieces, so they're not a team that relied on outplaying less talented championship competition. They won the ways you would want to win in the Premier League. Creating those opportunities. So I'm tentatively leaning towards Coventry as the one who survives, and I'm going to say Hull and Ipswich are the ones who go down.
Yeah, I mean, given my limited knowledge of those clubs, just knowing that Coventry won the championship, and specifically not only that they won the championship, but they were actually the high-scoring club across the top 5 divisions with 97 goals. That came up during our match against them yesterday. It seems like they're pretty good. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so I also picked Ipswich and Hull to go down. We'll see.
I would say I don't know that I'd call Coventry pretty good. I think they're good enough.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, we'll talk more about it in depth. They did not look completely out of their depth in yesterday's game. So
right.
Maybe that bodes
really well. I wouldn't say that they played really badly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna pick the top 5, and we'll kind of go in. Which order do you want to go in, from top to bottom or bottom to top?
Man, let's go bottom to top. Let's just see. Okay. Let's see how it goes.
So who do you have as 5th place?
5th place. So we're going down to 5 spaces, by the way, because I think we're pretty much presuming that English teams will perform well in Europe to the point that the top 5 will automatically qualify for the Champions League. In terms of my 5th place team, I am going to go with Manchester United. I think they're a Champions League team. I am not sold on Carrick as a great manager. He seems to be a solid one, although there were cracks in sort of they were getting results, but not necessarily in the best play. They've reinforced a bit, but there's still a lot of more holes in their lineup than some of the other top contenders. And remember, last year they played 40 games total last season because they weren't in Europe and they were eliminated from both cup competitions in the first game. I think adding Europe is just going to be, I don't want to say too much. I think they're good enough to be top 5, but I think asking a lot more from them at this stage is going to be a little much.
Okay. I actually don't have Man United in my list. Must be an oversight. Who I picked for number 5. Again, they are another club from that same city. Manchester City, I think, is on the downswing. I think I'd be shocked if they came in 1st or 2nd this season. I think they are on the way down. I think they probably still do qualify for the Champions League, but that's even debatable. I don't know. I guess we'll see how it goes. But especially, nothing about the Community Shield match changed that perception. So. Fair enough.
Yeah. Should we do this as a snake? I went first for number 5. You'll go first for number 4.
Yep.
So go ahead. Who's your number 4? Who is your 4 then?
So number 4, I'm thinking Liverpool. Don't have too much to say about it. I don't have too much to back up a lot of these, just kind of gut feeling and hunches, but I don't see them. Nothing I've heard about them leads me to indicate they're going to do much better than they have before. It's kind of like they're going to do about the same, and Manchester City does a little bit worse and drops below them. So, yeah. What about you? Okay. You're number 4.
I think I am also going to go Liverpool, actually. I think they're going to settle a little bit. I like Iraola, their new manager. Again, that's going to be a common theme in all of those new managers all over the place. I like Iraola. I do think Liverpool, though, is a club still in a bit of transition. They're still trying to bed in a lot of the attacking players they signed, and their defense is still kind of not great, especially if Virgil van Dijk, even though he continues to seem ageless, at some point that's not going to be true. The Father Time is undefeated and all that. I think they'll be a little bit better than last year, but I think they're still in a bit of transition. I think as they start to remake themselves under Iraola's vision. I will say the great wild card in this, though, is that the new figure who's just bought into their ownership group is Jeff Bezos. And if he decides to go full out takeover and, just decides to buy every player he can in January, then it changes everything. But I don't think that's going to happen quite that fast. But I do think, I think Liverpool is going to be solid. I think, but I'm not quite there to put them. I don't feel great picking them in fourth, but I'll say fourth for now.
Okay. And what about third?
Third, I'm going to go with Chelsea. This is probably going to be one that feels a little more controversial to a lot of people. I think they're still a bit of a mess as a club in terms of some of their roster construction and just their desire to sign every young player ever. I do think they made a few smart decisions in bringing in a few more veteran players. I think Xabi Alonso is a good manager. Certainly he proved that at Leverkusen a few seasons ago. So I think they're also going to benefit a great deal from not being in European competition, a little extra rest. I think if they can be a little stabilized in the locker room, Morgan Rogers I think they overpaid for Morgan Rogers, but he is a good signing. He might help unlock Cole Palmer a little bit. That seems to be the hope. I think they're going to be solid. I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year, especially without Europe to clutter the schedule. So I'm going to say Chelsea and not feel particularly great about it. What about you?
So, again, without the wealth of experience, it gets hard to pick these. So, take these with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But I was very surprised last season at how well Sunderland did for as much of a season as they did. And just kind of banking on that same trend continuing. Maybe they grow from finishing 7th place their first season back from the championship. Maybe they grow that and actually finish in 3rd this season.
I have a professional friend who's a Sunderland fan. He'd enjoy hearing that.
I'm sure he would.
I guess I was going to say. I wonder who he gets in. I was waiting for you to just say Spurs as well in this one, just for giggles.
Hedge my bets.
In terms of who got in instead of United, but
yeah. And then for second, I don't know. I've got a funny feeling about Aston Villa. They've been a tough opponent. I don't really know too much about what they've done over the summer, but they've been a tough one to beat. And thankfully, they dispatched Manchester City in the last match of last season. But we'll see how they end up doing, but that's something about my gut is telling me that. So what do you think?
Okay, yeah, Villa's an interesting choice. I think they've lost a lot of good players. They're probably getting rid of a few more.
Okay.
And adding in the Champions League, it's hard for me. They were one I flirted with in that top 5, but I'm not. I couldn't pull the trigger. But they'll prove me wrong. They proved me wrong in the past. So they're certainly well managed. They know who they are, which is a really good thing to have. Number 2, I'm going to stick with Manchester City.
Okay.
All kidding aside, including the fact that he looks like Pep, I actually do think Enzo Maresca is a solid manager. I thought he did some good things at Chelsea. He did a really good thing in terms of earning promotion with Leicester. They're obviously another club going through massive transition. Rodri's gone. Bernardo Silva's gone. This is Erling Haaland's team now. There's a lot of guys they have who haven't really won anything yet, or certainly haven't led the line to win anything yet. They've got some young players who are kind of coming up, but they're in a space of transition there. But it's kind of that common theme in all these other clubs we're talking about, which I think kind of leads us into that last bit there, right? Who's our number 1? I think it's really easy to see why. Well, I think it's really easy to see why we're both going to go the same way, right?
All right, 1, 2, 3. Arsenal.
Here you give your rationale first.
I mean, There's not too much to say. We're an Arsenal focused show. It feels like it would be treasonous to say anything else for one thing, especially coming off a season where we did just win the league, right? But not only have we just won the league, we are not dismantling. All of our transfers are from a position of strength, growing our depth in the places where we learned last season how desperately we needed to. We're basically adding on a ton of defenders. We were very thin there. We're adding on forwards because we were thin there. I see nothing to indicate anything going any worse this season. We're mostly the same squad and short up in key places. So
yeah, right. I think obviously the big thing for us is how settled we are. We know, like we talked about with Villa there. Villa knows who they are. We know who we are. We know who we are. We know what we tried, with the way we're trying to play. Arteta has a firm grip on the side. I think this is where the addition of a player like Bruno is really important. And I heard some of this chatter over the summer, and I think it's really right. He didn't win the league last year. Declan Rice, Saka, these guys won the league last year. Bruno didn't. He's still got a little bit of that extra hunger, that fire, because he can't remember. What did you do during the parade? I watched it on TV like everyone else and wanted to be like, you need some of those guys like that who are going to help push things on. And I think, but coming into a side that's solid, and you look around again, City has a new manager, Chelsea has a new manager, Liverpool has a new manager, Manchester United's new manager has been there, took over in January. Spurs had their manager, took over in April. Newcastle is basically torn down. Villa's lost a lot of good players. Everybody else who you could possibly name is making a run, is going through various kinds of transition. And then you just add in the mental aspect. Think about where we've been the last 3 years, coming so close again and again and again. And at least now, and again, it's weird to do predictions 2 games into the season, but if you watch them play, they look like they don't have a care in the world. They look like they know just how good they are, and that makes them very, very dangerous. I think with the removal of that mental block, I could see this being, I'm not going to predict it per se, but I could see this being a season where Arsenal wins the league fairly comfortably. We're not having those nail biters towards the end. I think this is one where we could be in the middle of April and, sort of already planning the parade route. This is a very good team. This is a team that ranks among the very best in Europe and by extension then the world. I think they're in their prime. I think their chief competition has, considerable question marks. I don't want to say flaws, certainly question marks. Given how the league rewards consistency over a long stretch, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to win everything. Obviously, it takes one bad day and you're out of the cup. But it is just really hard for me to paint a picture where Arsenal isn't the best team over 38 games. It's just a hard thing for me to fathom. Having said that, we should point this out. Arsenal has not repeated as a league champion since the 1930s.
Yeah.
All those teams under Wenger and all that never did it. It is hard to win more than one in a row, but I think that if you wanted to build a scenario where you would feel comfortable doing it, I think this is it. Us in the position of strength, our competition in various stages of transition, this is what that would look like to feel good about that coming in, and I do.
Right. All right, about a week ago, as we record, we played the Community Shield, the kind of unofficial opening of the Premier League season. It was the second time that I've seen this fixture, and the second time I've seen Arsenal play Manchester City in this fixture, and the second time I've seen Arsenal beat Manchester City in this fixture. The commentator said apparently Arsenal has beaten Manchester City every time we've played them in the Community Shield. So
it was the 2 times you're referencing, and then also once in the 70s or something. It's not that often.
They didn't add that detail.
It was like 3 for 3, which is pretty good. But
right. And at the time when they were saying that, it was 2 for 2. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's the Community Shield in pretty much every other country would refer to this as a Super Cup, pitting the winner of the league against the winner of the Challenge Trophy. And so in this case, the Manchester City is the FA Cup champions. Arsenal, of course, as the league champions facing off. Typically played in Wembley, but not this year. We were in lovely Cardiff, Wales.
Why?
Well, because there was a concert at Wembley the past weekend. I say the weekend. The weekend. The artist, the Canadian musician, The Weeknd was performing at Wembley that weekend.
Canadians mess everything up. Yeah.
It's kind of odd that as Wembley you would book that concert. Like, it's not like they don't know when the Community Shield is going to take place. But these things happen. So, and I will say, so it is currently called the Principality Stadium because of sponsorship, but is more commonly known as the Millennium Stadium, which, if you go back far enough, as I do, while Wembley was being renovated into the modern version where it exists now, for a number of years, the cup competition, the cup finals were played in Wembley. The FA Cup, played in Cardiff, at the Millennium Stadium. The Community Shield, the FA Cup, the League Cup, those were played over in Wales for a few seasons. So this isn't actually this is not the first time this sort of thing has happened. It's just kind of weird that it happened, because of what would seem to be a fairly avoidable thing, as opposed to the complete reconstruction of the stadium as it was.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Do you think that contributed to why it didn't sell out and why we saw empty rows in the stadium, because it was a further travel?
Well, no, because Arsenal bought up. Really, the reason the game wasn't a sellout is because Manchester City didn't sell their allotment. Arsenal sold far more than their ticket allotment. It was definitely a predominantly Arsenal crowd. I think in a lot of ways it reflects the. Here's the politically correct way to say this. I think it reflects a lot of the positive feelings that Arsenal fans have about the club, where it is and where we are coming to the season, versus, I think, the less optimistic phase that you're going to see City fans in, with Pep gone, a certain players gone. There's a sense that they aren't quite what they've been the last few years, and so it lessens the enthusiasm. The snarkier point to point out is that if you just actually counted the number of fans each club has in general, Arsenal is a much larger fan base than City, and so that they travel much better in this circumstance.
Right. So the first thing I noticed, aside from the strange venue, was we had a pretty rotated lineup. I mean, just kind of rattling off the names of who was on the bench was really when I noticed how rotated our lineup was, because overall, I recognized all the names. It wasn't like we were playing obscure players, but just looking at the bench, Saka, Rice, Eze, Gyökeres, Marino, Zubamendi, Dauman, Kepa, and Nkapie. This is like an all-star bench. And we don't have slouches on the starting lineup, but some of our biggest heavy hitters were on the bench. Do you know why that was? Was it just that this match doesn't ultimately matter and they're coming off the World Cup or something? Or
well, the World Cup is a big part of it. I mean, in a sense, that's kind of weird. In most other countries that have these Super Cup games, it matters a lot. They put a lot of stock into these kind of games. In England, it feels like just in some ways it's kind of a glorified friendly. Now, to be fair, big managers don't talk about it that way. Mikel Arteta did not talk about it. There was a trophy. This was a final. We were going to play to win this game. But look at the names on the bench there. Saka, Rice, both went deep in the tournament with England, and in the case of Saka, nursing an injury. Rice, dealing with a certain level of fatigue. Marino and Zubamendi both went deep into their tournaments with Spain. Eze too was obviously with England. So you've got a lot of guys who are still kind of coming back from the World Cup. They've only been in practice at that point. I think it'll have been training for about a week. So they're not fully up to the full fitness levels. Just looking at some of the others, with Gyökeres, we talked about this. Havertz, I think, is the preferred striker for big games. So not surprised to see Gyökeres on the bench. Same I think in the case of Dauman. And, obviously we can look at a player like Mudryk, who played with England, but I think he's ahead of Dauman. Dauman's still kind of young. It's not, you're going to be careful about the situations you use him in. And then with Nkapie, he's the backup left back. The starting left back is Ricardo Calafiori, who, by the way, pretty much justified that position in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, how common is it? As an Arsenal fan, I see a fair number of goals scored by defenders. And we have Gabriel, who scores from headers pretty routinely off of corner kicks. Am I spoiled? Is that uncommon, or do you see that a lot? Like, because the fact that we're talking about him as scoring the first goal of the match so early, like that was great. That's not usually what you count on a defender to do.
I mean, we should point out that he scored the goal to open last season. He scored the goal against Manchester United. So 2 years in a row,
I forgot that.
Wow. Well, so typically, you're right. Defenders generally don't score. It's right in their name. That's not what they're supposed to do. And typically, when you see defenders scoring goals, it is more of a Gabriel type, where they come up on set pieces, they use their head, they create opportunities, scrambles in the box. What makes Calafiori more interesting and much more of a modern defender, especially a modern fullback, is the way we see him cutting inside and creating those opportunities and running into those offensive channels. Now, he obviously has a lot of freedom to roam in the system that Arsenal runs. Like, it's not as if he's cutting in from the wing like we see Ben White do from occasion. Calafiori is running a channel like he's the number 9. That is such a wild. He really just sort of randomly appears at various places around the field, and he's just really good at finding those spaces, and that's what he did there. So just and kudos to Miles Lewis Skelly, whose name we haven't talked about. He was another one transfer rumors are around, and he just kind of put that one to bed right away. He's not having any of that.
We're seeing him in midfield where he belongs.
Yeah. And I think too, as you talk about this lineup, it feels rotated, but a lot of that I think is just World Cup fatigue related. I think this was as strong a lineup as I would have expected given the circumstances, and it's a pretty strong lineup as we saw.
Yeah, and I mean, like looking through the names, Saka, Rice, Eza played for England, Gyökeres played for Sweden, Marino, Zubamendi played for Spain, and then you have Dauman, Kepa, and Nkapia did play for Ecuador. But and Dauman and Kepa, okay, fine. They you would expect them to be on the bench.
Right.
So,
Right, it's the names like Saka and Rice that you kind of jump out at you, but remember the circumstances there, and them in particular with Saka and his injuries, and Rice with his what we believe to be fatigue. Like it's once you start to, it's one of those, once you unpack it a little bit, you go, oh yeah, of course that's what that would be.
Right. Yeah. One question that occurred to me. So once, I forget if it was after the first or the second yellow card handed out, I was just wondering, because this is like a one-off competition, how does yellow card accumulation work in the Community Shield? Like, at what point does it become a match suspension for players? Like, does it factor in any other competition that they play in? Or is it like the next time they go to the Community Shield, if they get a second yellow, then they're suspended for the following Community Shield? That may never happen.
No, there's no accumulation because, as you said, there's only one game. Like, the point of accumulation is to penalize persistent fouling across a tournament. Either and you can call a season is essentially just an extended version of a tournament. What you would see, though, what would carry over would be suspensions, because we've talked about this, like with the FA Cup, because it's all under the umbrella of the Football Association. If you picked up I'm not sure this is definitely true, but I know it works this way with the cups. It wouldn't surprise me. If you picked up a red card in the Community Shield, then you could very well find yourself suspended for the first game of the Premier League season, or rather, at least the next game you played in a competition under the auspices of the FA. But in terms of counting yellow cards, that's only going to happen in each individual competition separately, and that's a suspension that's generally would be filled for that competition specifically. And really, you're only going to worry about that in the league and the Champions League.
Right. And I guess actually, if you got a yellow card like in the last game of the Premier League season before your team won, or if they'd already won the FA Cup, I guess that suspension could end up being served during the Community Shield match, probably.
No, so those kind of suspensions are wiped out at the end of the tournament, because the accumulations are just wiped out. So it is kind of like getting a free hit, basically.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So this, there isn't that much to talk about with this match. I mean, for one thing, the early goal really set the tone. Like you said, Calafiori scored in like the 25th second of the match. It was crazy. It was one of those things where, like, you better be settled in, like, at the whistle, or else you miss something if you're like grabbing your drink and you haven't sat down yet. But that set the tone for the whole thing. I mean, it was a good showing for us. I mean, did you have any reason to suspect otherwise from the preseason?
I mean, it's always easy to overrate the preseason. And to be fair, from the bits I saw and certainly the reports I saw, we didn't it didn't seem like we played well or looked particularly well. But of course, the goal is not to play well in the preseason. The goal is to be ready to play well in the season.
Right.
And whatever they were doing was clearly working. They were clearly ready for this game. Was I a little nervous going in? Yeah, because games against Manchester City are usually kind of cagey and there's a little odd thing. But that early goal just set the tone.
Mm-hmm.
Havertz scores, and then Havertz scores again in the 28th minute, and it's 2-0. And the game wasn't over then, but then of course, when Ødegaard just dummies Donnarumma, it's so embarrassing. And he makes it 3-0. Like, the game's over. It's over. We were, and that's the kind of thing too. I know it feels retroactive, but just like, I think City will get better. I think they'll find themselves. I do think Enzo Maresca is a solid manager, and that's not just because he looks like Pep. I mean, it's kind of weird, right? Like, we've talked about this before. It's weird.
We did, and it was funny for me. I didn't even remember that Pep wasn't the manager anymore, despite having seen him throughout the whole, seeing Maresca, throughout the whole first half. It wasn't until it was like in the second half, I was like, oh wait, that's not Pep, that's Enzo Maresca. Like, it, he picked like a virtual doppelganger for Pep.
It's weird. But anyway, I think a lot of ways what the game sort of says, the performance sort of says, because in some ways it's hard to really analyze because we were just playing at a different level than they were, which is kind of fun to say when you're talking about Manchester City. Like, we were ready for the season. Like, we're ready. And I think City's going to need some time to kind of pull themselves together. They still got talent. That's it. I don't think they're doomed. Remember last year Liverpool beat Crystal Palace to win the Shield, and that didn't work out for Liverpool in the long run.
Right.
Again, I think we're in a different place than where Liverpool was this time last year. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to think about how much better we are than them. Certainly to prove it on the field, especially when you consider like our last two competitive matches against them. That game in the league that we lost up in Manchester, and then of course the League Cup final. So it's nice to plant one on them and kind of walk away. Like, it's hard to walk away from that with any conclusion other than we're just a lot better than they are right now. I think they'll be good, but I think we're different.
Before we leave this match, one last question. I'm sure everybody is curious for your take. What do you think of Saka's cornrows? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I feel like we've seen this before. Like, I feel like there was this coming out of a summer competition. Maybe it was the last Euros where he came back and had them, and
So maybe it's a summer style for him, and then eventually they come out.
Maybe. I'll be honest, I don't care for them, but that's because change confuses and frightens me. It's his hair. He wants to do it. Whatever. Listen, he came on the field. He was dangerous the moment he stepped on the field. He's a guy. I've always been a fan. He's one of my favorites. Whatever he wants to do with his hair, if he's going to play like that this season, sign me up.
As we record this, we just played the Premier League opener, something that I'm not accustomed to watching, against Coventry City yesterday, a Friday match. I don't remember, maybe more than one Arsenal match on a Friday of the last 4 seasons, but I feel like this may be the first, but I leave room that maybe I'm just forgetting one. But so our second 3-0 victory in under a week. I could definitely get used to this.
Well, I think for a while it's the last time we're going to play a team wearing sky blue shirts named City. So I guess we can't expect 3-0 wins. But yes, this was your introduction to Coventry City. Premier League watchers, English football fans of a certain age will remember Coventry City. They basically spent like 30-something years in the top division from the late 60s into 2001 when they were ultimately relegated, and they have finally made it back to the top division. Among other things, courtesy of, among many things, their manager, Frank Lampard. It's not a bad manager, as much as we made fun of what happened at Chelsea, but that's more the Chelsea thing, and Chelsea and all. He's It's an interesting thing. My Premier League watching dates to about 2006, so I don't have memories of Coventry. We've played them a couple times in cups. I'm sure over that stretch, but this was the first time I really seen them in league. And if you're Coventry, right, this is the hardest potential game on your schedule, away to the defending champions and prohibitive favorites.
And now it's out of the way.
and now it's done. It's all downhill. It's all easy from here on out. I don't know. I did not look at them, and we talked about this sort of in their promotion, in talking about who was going to stay up and whatnot. They were clearly outmatched. I didn't see them as being like completely overwhelmed by their surroundings. We beat them soundly, obviously, but I didn't look at them and say, well, they're not winning a game this year. They didn't look too terrible, I thought.
Right. No, definitely not. Just kind of some peripheral things that I noticed and wanted to ask you about. So for one thing, is it traditional for the Premier League winners of the previous season to lead off with the first match of the new season, and it's on its own day? There were no other Friday matches. Like, is that how things have been done recently? For like the last 2 years, I think. I think it is a relatively recent change. I hate to say the Americanization of it, but I think the National Football League, the American Football League, is kind of a good example. That's what they've been doing for the last, close to 2 decades at this point, where the season opens on a Thursday night where the Super Bowl champion hosts someone for a big primetime game. And I think that's kind of the direction they're trying to go here. Give the champions a marquee open. The champions are the marquee. If you wanted a marquee one, you would obviously a bigger opponent than Coventry, but it's fine. If the opponent doesn't matter, Arsenal, the champion, gets to come out. So, the fans get to sort of have one last big hurrah before the season begins. And then hopefully you wind up with a more festive atmosphere as they win to start the title defense campaign, which is obviously what happened in this case. But I think this is a relatively recent thing. Sure. As we talked about a little bit when we were talking about transfers, we have Christos Tzolis, who joined the club and played in both of these matches, and getting to watch him. One funny thing that I noticed is, for some reason, Arsenal's left wingers have a propensity to wear the long sleeve versions of the jerseys, and even in what I imagine are the warmer times of the year, but who knows? In England, maybe not as warm as what I'm feeling during any of these August or May matches, but that seems odd. Like, it's kind of a funny thing. Like, playing in the same position on the field, they all prefer the long sleeve jerseys. Yeah, it's just one of those weird things. Ødegaard likes to wear them too. He's definitely a long sleeve fan. It used to be the case. Pointing out Ødegaard, it used to be the case the captain would make that decision, and everybody would wear what the captain wore. And then there was a long stretch. There's a long stretch that they didn't even in the like the 2010s. They didn't even make long sleeve shirts because everyone was wearing the undershorts. And so, why bother with the long sleeves? Everyone's already staying warm. And I think they've moved back in the direction of making the long sleeve shirts, probably as much for aesthetic and fashion reasons as for like actual comfort. I know Europe's had a heat wave this summer, so I don't think like this Coventry game was particularly chilly. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I think that the prevalence of long sleeve jerseys, at least from Adidas, I think that happened in the last few years. I don't remember them really being available for the 22-23 or even maybe the 23-24 season. I feel like that kind of started just a couple seasons ago. What's also kind of funny with it is if you look at the construction of jerseys, because I have one and I've noticed since wearing it, I've noticed this when you look at the pictures on the website or if you look at it on the players on the pitch, it's basically like the short sleeve jersey, but then instead of the hem, they sew on a sleeve. Like there's a seam where the end of the short sleeve would be. It's kind of funny. Yeah, but I guess I like the feel of it. This match felt kind of similar to the Manchester City match. We scored not quite as early. I mean, 25 seconds is remarkable. They did say that was the earliest goal ever scored in that fixture in the Community Shield. But we scored in the 15th minute. Kai Havertz opened the scoring. We scored early. That kind of set the tone. Not really much of a threat. I mean, they didn't have their first shot on goal until the 86th minute, and that was header straight at Raya. He collected it pretty comfortably. But
remember those days when your opponent's XG was 0.03? Yeah, this is one of those.
Yeah, exactly. So, not too much to talk about. I mean, I will say it was really fun for the third goal, seeing the link up of Bukayo Saka, Ben White, and Martin Ødegaard again along the right side. We used to get that a lot more, and in a slightly different way. It was more like moving the ball up the field. They were all kind of already forward for that goal, but yeah, it was a little nostalgic.
I do think also this has been pointed out. I think they said it's only like the third time since December of 2024 that Saka, Ødegaard, and Havertz have all played together. Like, again, we start talking about what's different between this season and last season. How is Arsenal going to improve their offensive output? Having your best offensive players on the field is a really good way to... I mean, look at this. We've scored 6 goals in 2 competitive games. Guess how many of them came from set pieces?
Yeah. Yeah, and we're trying different... No, not yet. And we were trying different things with them too. They were playing more of the short ones, and not only like short corners, whereas like you're not just lobbing the ball into the box, but like actually like really short, like outside the 18-yard box and trying to play it in after the corner is taken. So
yeah.
It just brought me back to last season. We did that fake out that worked so beautifully, where they played it short like 3 times in a row, and then as soon as they pulled away like 3 of the defenders to the player who they thought was going to get the ball, then we just scored in around them. That was beautiful.
Right. I mean, I still expect us to score our fair share from set pieces and corners, especially. But I do think like. The narrative, again, this is narratives being driven by fan banter and being driven by, media who looks for clicks. We were never quite as stolid, I think, as people were accusing us of. Or we were, because how many times did we have to go in the game and try to think, all right, who the heck is going to play it forward for us? And could we have gotten more from Gyökeres? Yeah, but I mean, Havertz was hurt a good chunk of the season. Ødegaard missed a bunch of time and wasn't, was still clearly struggling when he played. Same with Saka.
Marino.
Marino. I mean, all kidding about, Marino scores when he wants aside. He didn't play the second half of the season.
Right.
How much better can we be when your best offensive players can actually be your best offensive players? And I see, again, I think it just makes us a little more creative, a little more versatile, and a little more dangerous overall offensively. Because, oh, by the way, the defense still looks absurd in the best way possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a weird thing to say, given you're missing William Saliba, who is arguably one of the best central defenders on the planet.
Yeah, it's they're in a good spot. But yeah, I don't know if there's too much else to say about this match. I mean, they did a good job. It was not stiff competition. It was a very pleasant way to open up the Premier League season. Yeah,
in a sense, yeah. But you caveat them in terms of the competition by saying they did what they were supposed to do. They faced a team that was inferior, and they swept them away.
Right.
They made quick work of them. But enough about the Community Shield game. They did what you're. But yeah, in this case with Coventry, they did what they're supposed to do with that. And look, there will be difficult games. I'm certainly not going to predict this is an invincible season. The league is simply too good and too deep for that. But this is exactly what you would how you'd want the start of the season to go, and. Only 37 more league games to go. It's a long way. It is a long road to May, man. Don't forget that.
Who is your player of the week?
All of them. So many possible choices. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here. I mean, even Bruno, who was hurt for the Coventry game, making him proper Arsenal. Spending his time on the injured list. But I'm going to have to go with Martin Ødegaard. I think he's a guy who was clicking on all cylinders. You could pick a whole bunch of players from all of this. You could just pick Lewis Skelly for his performance in the Community Shield. But to me, when Martin Ødegaard is playing well, Arsenal has a different level overall, and that's good to see. So again, things that long may they continue. I think Ødegaard drives the bus when he's ready and available, and if he's driving the bus, we're going a long way.
Yeah, we can really say that he's back. Like he played for us late last season, but now this is our Ødegaard. Like he's back for us. So yeah, that's great. For me, I actually really took notice of Tzolis. Like I want to add a Quantum of Tzolis to this episode. He was there for, like I said, when we were talking about the transfers, I mean, like a majority of the goal contributions, that he had at least a couple goal contributions in each of these matches. And he's just doing what you want that left side winger to do. He's just cutting in, moving the ball forward, challenging them, getting into good positions, getting in the box, good forward runs. Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of a slightly younger, more energetic Trossard, basically. Like that's what we got out of him, it seems like. So I'm really excited to see him develop.
I mean, we always said about Trossard is he's never afraid to pull the trigger. Tzolis is really not afraid to pull the trigger on a shot. And, sometimes there's a value to that, right? Take a shot at goal and see what happens.
Yeah. It's something. Yeah, maybe there was a better option than shooting, but you don't want him to then extend that and not take the shot when he should have. So I'd pick. Yeah, that
it's okay. It's okay if goal scorers are a little greedy. That's what makes them goal scorers.
We're top of the table still. Again, whatever. I don't know how far back we extend this. We're in the new season. It's the first match, and alphabetically, at least, we're top of the table. And also, I don't think there's any way to get dethroned unless someone scores a 4-0 goal difference or whatever. But yeah, we're recording this on a Saturday, so not every match has happened yet. But
yeah, we're still. I think you said there's still four left to play this weekend.
Yeah.
We are actually technically, technically we are tied on top of the table. Our 3-0 win was matched earlier today. Brentford had another nice kick about it with the boys. 3-0 win against, wait for it, Tottenham. Nice. Other fun results today. Remember how we both talked about Hull's going down? Hull City 2, Manchester United 0. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So if you look at the standings, actually, it's Spurs and United are sitting in relegation spots. Again, that's not how it's going to end. We know, but so far it's been a good weekend. We are currently tied with Brentford on the top of the table. We'll see about the other results. Obviously, Liverpool still has to play, Chelsea still has to play. So there's still some games left. And frankly, whatever, if you end up in second because of goal difference after day one, who cares? We'll be but it's nice to look at and see right now.
Yeah. What is coming up next for Arsenal?
So, looking ahead, our next Premier League game is actually going to be picking up the new tradition of weird start times. We're actually going to play on the following Monday. So not this Monday, not 2 days from now as we record on the 22nd, but the following Monday, the 31st of August, the day before the transfer window closes. We will be away to Aston Villa, which, I told you things would get a little more difficult from Coventry. Coventry home going to Aston Villa away is a big step up. So that's a good team. We know they cause us problems. We know they like causing us problems. That definitely is going to be, it's going to test some of our mettle a little bit. But I feel pretty good about it overall. Another thing to look for between now and then on Thursday is going to be the draw for the league phase of the Champions League. So we're going to have a few more games to plug into our schedule coming up. So that'll happen soon. They have the last playoff round. We'll finish by Wednesday. They'll do the draw on Thursday. And we'll find out who we're going to see in the league phase.
Do you think in the match at Villa Park we'll see Konsa get his Arsenal debut against his former club in their park?
It wouldn't surprise me, honestly. I guess we'll see a little bit how he beds in. Obviously, it depends a little bit, too, on Mosquera and Ben White and how they're feeling. It wouldn't surprise me if they start and he comes on perhaps as a sub, just in terms of his preparation, all that. But who knows? We'll see. I'm going to be very curious as we move into the stretch where you have the midweek games with the Champions League and also the League Cup, how Arteta thinks about the rotation of the side in those games.
Right.
We certainly have the players to do it.
Yeah. On a more personal note for this show, coming up next for us, the year ahead has brought some changes for yours and my schedules, and our schedule. We've been pretty darn regular about recording a show almost every week for a while now, and that's going to change. We don't know exactly what form it's going to take, maybe every couple of weeks or a few weeks or 4 weeks. We'll see. Expect change, a little more sporadic, and we'll pick and choose more what we talk about each time. We're not going to do like 3 or 4 hour episodes. So,
yeah, I mean, we're still going to follow Arsenal. We're still going to watch as many games as we can and do all that kind of stuff. But the time commitment for us sitting down to do the show it's not going away, but it is going to be a little more we're a little more sporadic. We have some ideas or some thoughts, but the best laid plans of mice and men. But rest assured, we're with you all. We will be with you all the way, in spirit at least, as Arsenal embarks on what we hope is another successful campaign.
That's right. Thanks for joining us at Gooner U. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to the podcast of our show on Apple, Spotify, and some other places. If you're only listening, try watching us on YouTube with the link in the show notes. Your homework for today is for podcast listeners to hit the like button everywhere you see one. That could be in your podcast player, it could be on YouTube, or it could be on one of our short video platforms. We record the show using Zencastr. If you'd like to try it out, you can support Gooner U by signing up using the link in the description, which also has links to everything we talked about and our socials. Again, my name is Dove, and you can find me on Twitter at Dove Frankel. With me, as always, is Keith, and you can find him in a pub watching Arsenal matches.
Happy New Year, everyone, and come on, you Gunners!